What's going on, everyone? We are back for another live edition of the Bleed Los podcast post-game show. The Dodgers take game 2 against the Blue Jays. Yamamoto gives us another gem. The boys are coming back to Cali. We're going to get into all of it. Tonight we have Cody, aka Ganello. We've got Anthony, producer Roger behind the scenes, and I am Drea. Before we get into all of it, we want to make sure to tell you about DodgersBeat.com. Stay up to date and in the know with all of the latest and most comprehensive coverage of the Los Angeles Dodgers. It is your one stop for articles, interviews, contests, merch, and more. Never miss a beat and check out DodgersBeat.com. All right, fellas, they took a minute to warm up, but they came through. How are we feeling after splitting the series?
Feeling good. Job done, essentially. We went up there to get a split, a hard-fought split. It wasn't looking like it was going to be a split, considering how the at-bats looked early on in that game. Kevin Gausman went out there, did his job, had three bad pitches the entirety of his outing,
Right.
but the Dodgers came through at the end. I'm glad it's over with. I'm glad there's a day off because I kind of have to recompose myself coming down back here to LA.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Cody, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't looking good there, like Anthony said, for probably more than half the game, at least three-quarters of the game. We kind of were looking at maybe, a late inning heartbreak loss in some form of fashion. But the credit to the Dodgers offense, Will Smith, Max Muncy, they set the tone with their solo home runs, give the Dodgers the lead, and then pad that lead. And, they never looked back. They took advantage of the Blue Jays' mistakes, tacked on some more, ended up winning 5-1. But obviously we all know who the story is from today, and that is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who, tosses back-to-back complete games. I mean, that's some ace level stuff right there. He is starting to look worth every penny. Maybe even Dodgers may have gotten him on a bargain, but great pitching performance by him today. Dodgers needed him to set the tone, and he did that and more.
Yeah, we got to get all into Yamamoto, but for a while there, Anthony, did you think we were going to be allergic to run support for Yamamoto yet again?
Yeah, it also didn't help that we had like some boneheaded plays on the defensive end. That play that comes to mind is that pop up. First pitch of the inning that Yamamoto throws, immediately weak pop up. All right, let's go, one out, and it immediately drops. I kind of felt like that would be like where the game would spiral out of control. I'm like, here we go. Like, here's the classic Dodgers just giving the runs unearned. Here we go. Like, and it settled down. I don't know, it's just it feels like he's reached a new level. The guy that once was when he first started last year is no more here, and like I don't even know who this guy is. But then again, when you look at it, the equivalent to the Cy Young Award out in Japan, he's the last winner of it. They don't really give it away, kind of like it's a participation trophy. No, you have to be pretty dominant, and the last active winner is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which is kind of insane, kind of considering that he hasn't pitched there in 2 years now. But yeah, I kind of felt it was kind of trending to be one of those regular season Yamamoto starts. Like here he is, he's dominant, and here's the offense kind of looking like me when I go to the batting cages, essentially just completely lost, don't know what to do. Kevin Gausman, again, I want to solidify, he did his job, he did amazing, he found a way to shut these guys down, but essentially, I think the player of the game, apart from Yamamoto, is Will Smith. Will Smith drove in 2 runs today, kind of that home run and that early single that kind of scored Freddie Freeman for the early lead. I think it was Freddie Freeman, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was a very hard fought victory. I think the rest of the way it's going to be like this, very hard fought. I think yesterday's game was kind of a blip. It turned into a punt essentially after we kind of let the Yams out in that inning. But I feel like every game going forward is going to be like this.
It will be. And we got to give credit to the Blue Jays. They are not going to lay down and let us have another title. They're going to fight. But yeah, I think we just got to kind of keep on going a little bit more about Yamamoto because I just cannot stop thinking about how incredibly lucky we are to have this man who is not afraid of the bright lights. I mean, Cody, he's got to be in the MVP chat. I mean, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I know we mentioned, in our preview episode, like, all right, who's going to be the MVP? Anthony said Muncy, and he came up big today. I said Otani. A lot of other people around the baseball world said Otani as well. And, he did have that garbage time home run, but, it takes a rare type of person and player to show up when the lights are brightest. And Yamamoto's done that in back-to-back starts, kind of back-to-back seasons, too. He was really good in his lone start in the World Series last year as well. I think he went 7 innings in that outing. And today, he kind of did everything the Dodgers needed and more. Dave Roberts still doesn't want to use that bullpen, so that's one. And then he goes the distance, sets the tone, reiterates why the Dodgers are here, and it's based off their starting rotation and their pure dominance. I think the stat line is if they get 6+ innings from their starters, they're undefeated this postseason, where the rest of the league is kind of 500. I think it was 7-7 is what they showed on the broadcast. So clearly the Dodgers have a plan, and their offense hasn't been as good as last year. I think Fabian Ardaya tweeted that out as well, where they've kind of hit almost less than half the home runs that they hit last year, and they've played, less games, but still it's something that's been an issue for the Dodgers as a whole since the division series started, where the offense, they've gotten clutch hits in key situations, taking advantage of certain teams' mistakes. The walk-off against Philly is one thing to consider. The Brewers kind of going pitching chaos in the championship series just backfired against them. And now they're facing a team that, whether it was the Mariners or the Blue Jays, they have a starting rotation and they have a bullpen options, and they're here for a reason. But Yamamoto, to do what he did, if he gets another start, and it's similar in that territory where we talked about Snell, if he has back-to-back starts of elite outings, I mean, you kind of have to have a starting pitcher get the MVP for how this postseason run has gone, because they've been the collective unit of why the Dodgers are here. And if they do win the World Series, it'll be because of that as well. But the one other positive besides Yamamoto was just that the offense started hitting homers again, which I think is their trademark. They're not like a contact first offense. They will swing and miss, but if they can start hitting the long ball like they did today, I'm going to like their chances more. I like where they're set up for the next 2 games. They're going against Max Scherzer in game 3 and Shane Bieber in game 4. I like where the Dodgers are at right now. Like Anthony said, game 1's a blip, kind of an odd punt game. Game 2, the real Dodgers showed up in the second half of this game, but Yamamoto was the guy that we all needed him to be.
Yeah, he was. And, home field advantage is now shifted to our side. But yeah, like just kind of thinking about Dave Roberts and what's going through his head. Anthony, do you think he's just telling his starters like, yo, you're going 8 or 9, so just figure it out?
Yeah, when we previewed the series, I said our starting pitching was going to have to essentially carry us to the finish line. We have 4 very, very good, solid starting pitchers, and I said they might figure out 2 of these guys, but they're not going to figure out all 4 of them. And so far, we're kind of 1-1 right now. We'll see what Tyler Glasnow looks like, and we'll see what Shohei looks like coming into Game 4. It's become a battle of will. I know they got Scherzer going game 3. It kind of scares me a little bit. Big time player kind of rises to the occasion, but hopefully in front of the home crowd, these guys are able to deliver in front of more comforting settings. But yeah, that graphic that was going around too as well, when the Blue Jays score more than 5 runs, they're essentially unbeatable. They've won like 70 something, 78 games, which is a ridiculous stat. So we did our job today, held them to only 1 run today. We also minimized what the others were doing. Varshall didn't really do anything. Kirk really didn't do anything. All those other guys really didn't do anything. So the game plan worked today. Hopefully it works going into Monday, and hopefully we're up 2-1 going Monday.
I hope so, because once we start to kind of take a little dominance in a series, I think we get in the other team's heads. But yeah, what does scare me is that the person that we had thought that was going to be kind of like the big pivotal person that we got to neutralize was Vladdy. And for the most part, yeah, he's had pretty good games, but he hasn't been going nuclear like he usually does. Are we afraid that we're going to see that Vladdy wake up soon, Cody?
No. I think the Dodgers kind of have a plan of attack. Even if they don't win the battle, as long as you keep him in the ballpark, that's perfectly fine with me. If you give him walks, let him have them. If you give him long singles like he had today, that's fine. As long as he's not, driving in, the extra base hits and getting a bunch of RBIs, the Dodgers will take that, game plan. And Yamamoto and Snell, but particularly Yamamoto today, had him looking silly at a couple pitches, kind of getting out of his zone, chasing some pitches, or at least thinking and attempting to swing at some of those fastballs outside of the zone. So clearly Dodgers have a plan to neutralize those guys. The only bad pitch from Yamamoto today was just that fastball in that first inning against Springer, where he got ahead 0-2, just left it right down the middle. Other than that, Yamamoto had a really good game. He was kind of playing against his own team today because, the Freddie Freeman play Anthony mentioned earlier. But I feel like if the Dodgers can continue pitching to Vlad the way they have, limiting his damage, whether if he gets on base or not, that doesn't matter. But I think you got to expect that is going to be the game plan moving forward. Like when Glass now takes the ball in game 3, just make sure you're not giving up the long ball to him, because if you start giving up the long ball to Vladdy, kind of sets a ripple effect to the rest of the lineup. Similar with the Dodgers. As soon as Otani starts getting flowing, the rest of the lineup starts getting in their own groove as well. And the Dodgers want to make sure they don't do that with Vladimir. And if they can still continue to do that, I like the way that they would pitch the rest of the series. And as much respect I want to put on Max Scherzer and all that, I still look at, what he did during the regular season as the larger sample size, and he didn't have a good season this year. And the Dodgers have two of the arguably, two of the league's best starters, and they're 3 and 4 starters this October. So we'll see what they do for the rest of this Blue Jays lineup. But I think game 2 was the blueprint of how to neutralize them. If you get contact, make sure it's early and make sure it's weak. Have a good defense behind you. I feel like the Dodgers have been playing really good defense for the first 2 games, especially Mookie Betts made another good play today. If they can keep doing those things and playing the game of baseball right, I'm going to like where they're going for these next 3 games at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I'm so glad that they're coming back to LA, because I really feel like our fans will show, incredible support and get behind him and build on that energy. But yeah, Anthony, you talked about Max Muncy early on, about him kind of being your choice for MVP, and he really gave us that clutch moment tonight. Talk to me about him.
He had really good numbers against Gosman. I also felt like you found something, especially in the Milwaukee series. To tell if you've found, if your hitter found something is when he goes the opposite field, and this home run he had here in this game was the opposite field. I feel like he did look foolish a couple times, but I kind of take that and move on. I take the homer. I feel like he's going to build off this. And the lack of really any dominant lefties that they have in their bullpen as well, too, is going to end up helping. I thought Freddie Freeman looked good. It's frustrating that he went up there hacking at the first pitch, but he just ended up missing both those pitches off the end of the bat. But I think our left-handed batters are making good contact at least. They're starting to look normal again, not overpowered by dominant lefties. So I feel like as the series goes forward, they're going to find avenues to get hits here and more runs, especially here at home.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited that I feel like they woke up just a little bit. But yeah, I definitely want to talk a little bit about Freddie, because a year ago tonight was the famous Gibby meet Freddie walk-off grand slam. I mean, we are never going to forget that. And I feel like, October 25th and Freddie go together, and I know that they intentionally walked him with what could have potentially been another bases loaded instance. But then, of course, they had the wild pitch, and then it wasn't going to be that. But I don't know. I just feel like Freddie's due for something. And before the series is over, there's going to be a Freddie Freeman moment. It may not be a grand slam, but he hits in World Series. So definitely liking that Freddie seems to be getting in a groove too. And I think that he'll definitely give us something fun here in LA. But got to get your thoughts on something a little bit. I don't know if it's not a bad thing. I love the Stand Up for Cancer message that was sent tonight, but I can't recall ever seeing like a show in the middle of a baseball game. I don't know. If I'll list to either one of you fellas. What did you think about the halftime show with the Jonas Brothers?
Well, I thought, I was concerned of what inning it was. Usually I was like, well, maybe it's the 7th inning stretch. They usually do like the songs, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, all that type of stuff. But then I looked at it, it was the end of the 5th going into the 6th. So I was like, okay, they're doing the Stand Up to Cancer. They've done that every World Series, at least in my lifetime that I can remember. So that makes sense. But usually it's not a delay. And then I see the Jonas Brothers out there in the outfield concourse. I'm like, what are we doing here? We're having a whole song. But I tweeted out, they saved the Dodgers season. We're going to look back on this day. They got Kevin Gausman on his groove, even though he did have a 6-pitch inning. And then, an inning later, that's when the Dodgers did their damage. But it was a little weird. We're not used to like delays like that in baseball, just because it's such a rhythm sport, especially the way these two guys were pitching today. Yamamoto ended his day with 20 consecutive batters retired in order. Gausman had a streak. I think he was in the middle of that streak of his like 14 or 17 straight retired batters, and that was in the middle of this inning as well with the halftime show by the Jonas Brothers there. So it was weird. I'm not complaining about it now, just because right now that's the Dodgers story of this World Series. The Jonas Brothers, in my mind, are saving Los Angeles.
It was a weird night overall. I mean, there was a lost signal. Colonel Sanders hanging out in the stadium. You've got the halftime show. It was odd, but I don't care as long as we bring home a win. We split the series, which I think all of us kind of were hoping for, the best case scenario. But talk to me a little bit about Otani, Anthony, because I mean, he seemed a little bit like he wasn't going to get his hits, and I did luckily get one. But I feel like he's not always getting the clutch hits he needs when he needs to be getting them.
To add on to your Jonas Brothers fact, the song they perform is "I Can't Lose," so maybe some good luck there. I'm gonna be playing that all day tomorrow. But yeah, the halftime show or inning show was kind of weird, but at that point, it's like what it's secondary now. But with Otani going back to him, I just feel like he's still kind of trying to do too much. I feel like if he just lets the game come to him, he'll find success similar to how he did in Game 4 against Milwaukee there. But he was able to get a single. Luckily, Andy Paz didn't get thrown out on that throw back to second base. But I just feel like he just has to slow it down. I feel like he's just kind of overdoing it. He's trying too hard, essentially. Like if he just like takes a deep breath and realizes like you don't have to be perfect in order for us to win. You just have to do your role, essentially be who you are. Just do your job. Like pass the baton on to Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and the guys behind you. You don't have to go out there and be the 50-50 guy, even though we want you to be. But sometimes the single here and there kind of starts something up in an inning and you don't know where you can go from there. So I just feel like the best thing for him to do is kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and be like, okay, let's go from here and like just build on for that. Because right now I feel like every time he goes up, I hate to say it, he's kind of turned into a black hole at the very top of that lineup.
Yeah, I think he'll give us, another big Otani moment before the end of the series, but definitely kind of like I'm not always feeling super confident that he'll come through and it's like that clutch moment when we really need him to. Luckily, he didn't go, complete like 0 for 4 or anything today. He did get a hit, but yeah, I really would love to see Otani wake it up a little bit. But yeah, another one that I kind of want to see wake it up a little bit more is Teo Cody. So I don't know if he was like bad at bats, bad calls, a little both. What do you think about him?
I think Teoscar just had a really bad day at the plate. Some decisions of himself, when you get into like a full count, he had in one of his at bats and you kind of were flailing a little bit at a low fastball and a low splitter, pitcher goes right back to it and you start swinging at it out of your shoes just to kind of, you're in that situation. So that's on him. But then I did think he and the home plate umpire were kind of having a lot of communication today. And that was my kind of takeaway from this entire game. For as good as Yamamoto was, I thought Yamamoto was elite. I thought Gosman just survived the Dodgers lineup because I thought a lot of calls. I am an unbiased Dodgers fan, but I'm watching the game. I'm looking at MLB Game Day, in a similar time frame, and I'm seeing, all right, well, was that a ball? Was that really a strike? And there was a lot of stuff that was called down that went in favor of the Blue Jays, and a lot of that has to be credited to Kirk behind the plate. He's the best framing catcher in baseball, and that's showing right now. But then some of these pitches were kind of just balls straight away, no adjustments from Kirk's glove to try to sell that pitch. So I just think it was a bad night for the home plate umpire on a lot of these calls. Teoscar in particular, he didn't know if how wide the strike zone was because he was getting calls on the outside lower half of the plate, on the inside lower half of the plate. So you could see he was frustrated there. Got the golden sombrero today. Hasn't really looked that good, since probably game 1 of the championship series when he hit the home run or game 2 of the championship series when he hit the home run in Yamamoto's start. But yeah, I'm not too sure what to make of it. Eventually he'll probably come up big, especially in front of the Dodger Stadium crowd. I think he really does play up to the fans there. So we'll see what he does in these next 3 games at the Ravine. I'm not too worried about it just because we kind of know the story with Teoscar. Bad defense, a lot of swing and miss, but he does have the opportunity to give you some power. I mean, hell, he's like Andy Paz in a lot of ways, and it's no wonder that they're so close in the clubhouse together just because they play similar ways. Can be shaky on defense, has a lot of swing and miss, kind of weird at bat, planning, and then eventually they can also just clip you for a 3-run, 2-run home run and, put up a crooked number. So I think he'll be fine. Get him back a day off and get him back home. We'll see what he does there.
Yeah, I love Teo. I want him to succeed and have his moment because I really feel like now we're gonna get big momentum shift coming back to the ravine, as you say. Yeah, and shout out to the chat. I see these Golden Times says Yamamoto got it done. Yes, he did get it done, and we are so proud because he's our stopper. He makes sure that when things are going a little too astray, he gets it right back on track. But yeah, Anthony, another guy who got it done today, especially at short. It's also always so much Mookie at the plate, but I feel like when he's at short and balls come to him, I really feel like we can trust him, and it's been so amazing to watch. What do you think of Mookie tonight? He had some great plays.
It's amazing that he's turned himself into a Gold Glove level shortstop. The transition from the outfield into the infield, especially at shortstop, not really an easy position to play. You can't really just throw anyone out there. He also gives a lot of credit to Miguel Rojas. Working out in the offseason with him kind of helped them adjust to that. And I feel, yeah, it's frustrating right now at the plate, but he said it best himself early on in that season where he said, my season's over, essentially. I'm just going to find a way to kind of help these guys win a game. And today it was on the defensive end. And it wasn't like the prior year when I saw him at short and the ball was hit to him, I'm like, oh, let's see how this goes. It's kind of like, well, Mook's there. He's going to make this play, essentially. Like that fear has completely just gone away. I know that he's going to make the routine play. And, sometimes it's a little bit tricky, but I feel like he's figured out his footing there well enough that I feel completely comfortable with him being a shortstop of the future at this point. I really don't see a reason for us to chase one in the offseason or in years prior. I feel like it's also saved his longevity as well, too. I think the move to shortstop compared to him being out in the outfield is going to save him in the long term. But I really do hope he finds it at the plate. He's kind of looked a little bit lost. He's back to being the Mookie Betts who popped up all the time. I felt like early on in the playoffs last year, but hopefully he's coming back home. It'd be easier for him to adjust or find an adjustment against Max Scherzer or Shane Bieber. But yeah, his defense on the infield, I hope he's rewarded and he ends up winning a Gold Glove this year.
Yeah, so Max Scherzer is next. I mean, Cody, how can we expect our guys to do against him?
I'll have to dig into more of the numbers when I get ready for my pregame preview, but he looked good in his last outing against the Mariners up in Seattle, went, I believe, 5 2/3 or 6 innings, something like that, to give them the win. This is a guy, like Anthony said, he's a veteran. He's been around the team, been around the league forever. He played on the Dodgers not too long ago in this kind of era and their run that they're on. So he probably has a couple notes in the back of his mind that he can use to attack these hitters. He knows the philosophies in some ways more than any other player on the Blue Jays team could probably know, other than maybe Donnie Baseball. But, the team's changed a lot since then. So I'm expecting him to attack. I'm expecting the Dodger fans to kind of be rowdy and ready. I'm a guy that's always heavily criticized Max Scherzer and what happened in 2021. Kind of thought what he did, not pitching in Game 6 kind of had a ripple effect on Walker Buehler's career, forcing him to start on short rest. And then coincidentally, he ends up, overthrowing his arm that October and gets Tommy John surgery the next season. So that kind of derailed his career and definitely derailed the Dodgers 2021 season, losing to the Braves in 6 games, failing to even get back to the World Series for a second consecutive year after winning 107 games that season. So I do hold a little bit of a grudge. So I would definitely love for the Dodgers to kind of have more of those offensive explosive games. I feel like we're not going to get one of those in this World Series from the Dodgers just because they haven't done it all October. We really haven't seen them put up a massive crooked number of 9 or plus runs like they did last season. But I do think the leash is going to be pretty short. I mean, Scherzer didn't have a really good season with Toronto this year. He battled a lot of injuries, had an ERA, around 5. He just wasn't good enough. He kind of got put into this situation because their rotation is just so banged up with Berrios out. I mean, he has to fill that spot. And him getting a Game 3 start, I thought it was going to be a Game 4. They wanted to give Bieber an extra day of rest. That should be an advantage for the Dodgers if they can play up to the game that they're playing right now. I feel like having Scherzer go Game 3, take advantage of that, get a win, go up 2-1 in the series, put all the pressure back on Toronto with Bieber on the mound. That's why I said I really like their chances kind of coming back home. Maybe the offense can ride some of that high that they had today, scoring 5 runs. And then hopefully Tyler Glasnow, this will be the biggest task for him since that Phillies team that he faced twice in the division series. We'll see how he does on Monday night.
goodness, Monday night. So I'm excited for that day off too, just to kind of rest and recuperate from, the highs and the lows of going through the World Series emotions. But yesterday's game after, the loss, we are kind of just digesting. You didn't have a chance to talk about the roster. Anthony, were there any surprises for you on this roster, like with the bullpen there? I think they added Klein and Enriquez over Casparius, or did you kind of think, well, that was expected?
I kind of thought it was expected, especially with the loss of Vestia. I kind of figured maybe Edgardo. Well, actually, I didn't think Edgardo would get another chance here. To be honest with you, I thought the next time he picked up a ball would be spring training day one. Will Klein's kind of interesting as well too. He looked pretty solid at the end of the year there in Seattle when I saw him play. But other than that, I'm not really surprised. Kasparius, I know is the guy got left off, but I don't know if he really would have worked in this series, especially because these guys are fastball hitters, and that's his best pitch is the fastball. High walk rate as well too, even though he hasn't really pitched for the big league team in a while. But I'm not really surprised by the guys left off. I think the more shocking news at the time, and I'm still having my prayers and thoughts with what's going on with Vesia. That's the kind of the thing that caught me by surprise. So at that point, I think the Dodgers was just kind of left scrambling. And I mean, I have all trust in both those guys to, if they're brought into the series to essentially get their job done, they have to pick up either the starting pitchers or the other guys that are in front of him.
Yeah. I mean, definitely with Vesia, we're all thinking about him. And, as much as like the guys are able to compartmentalize what they have to do at the moment, that has to affect them because they're all so close to him and they're all seem like a family. So definitely prayers up for Alex Vesia still and his family. But yeah, Cody, just talk to me more about the roster. I mean, especially like the bullpen or any of the pieces that you found kind of like, okay, that's probably was going to happen anyway, but is the plan not to even see the bullpen that much? So it really didn't matter.
Well, I didn't think they were going to add another right-hander. So whether it was Henriquez or Klein, that was what I was thinking. In the back of my head was like, Kirby Yates has been kind of traveling with the team. Maybe he's healthy and he needs some innings, especially when we get the Vestia news. We're like, all right, well, who is going to come back? And I was kind of leaning, maybe Tanner Scott just finds himself on this roster. Worst case scenario, you try to hide him as best as you can. But the Dodgers said, nope, you're not medically cleared. We'll see you in 2026, bud. So I think that was a good decision on their part. Klein looked really good in his short little stint with Los Angeles in the final month of the season, and kind of just, as long as he could control the walks, he had like so many strikeouts, I think, but the walks, it was like he had like 15 or 16 strikeouts and like almost equally amount of the same as walks. So that's something that you don't want to do. Henriquez is also a guy that struggles with his command. He has a velocity that reaches upwards of 100 plus miles per hour. That's definitely a weapon you want in your bullpen to match with Sasaki, who also can throw triple digits. But if you can't command it worth anything, I mean, that's going to give those hitters, especially the talented hitters on the Blue Jays, the opportunity to say, we'll spit on this and we'll wait for you to throw something down the plate and then we'll attack it. I'm not sure how much we're going to see of those guys. Klein, we got to see in game one in a mop-up role for that final inning. Don't know if they'll throw him in high leverage. I mean, the Emmett Sheehan thing hasn't really worked out, unfortunately, and I think it's just because he's gotten thrown in some icy situations. Bases loaded situation last night. We all talked about it during our post game. With kind of impossible situation for any pitcher, but he hasn't looked sharp. I think in all 4 appearances, he's given up a run or multiple runs in each one of them. That's not going to cut it. Maybe we see a little bit more of Justin Wroblewski getting used in some more action. We haven't seen Blake Trine in this series yet. Roki Sasaki was warming up. Yamamoto goes the distance anyway. So the game plan is still the same. The starters are just going to go deep in the game, and we're going to try to make sure that we don't see the bullpen as much as, we did during the regular season. And the only times that we do use the bullpen, Vestia being gone is a big thing. It's still going to be Blake Trine and Roki Sasaki, and then probably, I mean, I would say Sheehan still, but it remains to be seen. Right now, it seems like they just got like a two-man lane in the bullpen, and that's not going to cut it. So that's why the offense has to kind of get going here for me and you guys to feel comfortable about anybody leaving their start.
I'm not comfortable until the actual last out of a game. I mean, no matter how high or how much we're up, I'm scared. I'm not going to lie. Those last 3, 6, and 9 outs terrify me. But yeah, I want to get your thoughts on something that was a presser yesterday, Anthony, with Andrew Friedman, if you caught it. But I want to read a quote to you because I just kind of love that he said this, and I really feel it encapsulates kind of like, this era of Dodger baseball. But when he was asked about the chatter out there about that we've all been hearing, Dodgers are in baseball, because of course they're not winning, and then you never hear a peep. But when the Dodgers are, successful, Andrew Friedman goes, look, our focus is simple. He said, give our incredible fans a team they can be proud of and one that wins. And then he kind of went on to just kind of punctuate that with similar statements. And that's what I love about the front office is they're not concerned with the chatter. What did you think about that from Andrew Friedman?
Yeah, I love it. Once upon a time ago, at least when I was growing up, it wasn't really cool to be a Dodger fan. Like the stadium was empty, and that large part has to do with Frank McCourt. Just that
Mhm.
era of Dodger baseball kind of disgusts me. But I feel when that new ownership group kind of take over in 2013, that's kind of when a lot of people kind of got their love back for the Dodgers. Even though it took a while for us to kind of break through and finally make it back to the World Series in 2017. But ever since Friedman and the front office kind of taken over, there's been years, yeah, there's been years where it's frustrating. Like there's been like early flameouts, but like now that we've kind of consistently have made the playoffs, have won some championships, like there's really like nothing to complain about. Yeah, we nitpick throughout the season. Yeah, sometimes like we'll go through a rough stretch and we're like, God damn, man, like this team sucks kind of deal. But that's because we're watching 162 games, and this is what they play for essentially, is this little stretch of games here, these 13 games that they want to win essentially and be world champions. But there's not much more I can say about Andrew Friedman. He's been very awesome since we ever got him here. And the funny thing is too, I laugh at like the implementation of a salary cap because you really think Andrew Friedman is not going to be able to magnify or work around the salary cap? Like really, the guy who took the Tampa Bay Rays to the World Series with no money at all is not going to figure out a way to take a big market like Los Angeles back to the promised land with the salary cap in place. But that's for a later time, for 2 years from now when we do get locked out. But again, I have nothing but positive to say about him. The only thing I wish for him is that he stays the Dodgers GM forever, basically. That's my only wish.
Yeah, I love that he really just says it straight up. It's a lazy narrative, and the Dodgers are a brilliant organization. That it's not about the money; it's about the mind behind the money, and really how to put a winning team on the field. And they can do that regardless, and people will just have to see it for themselves. But yeah, definitely excited to see what we all talk about in the off season because Cody, it looks like it might be a little preview, might be kind of a fun one. There's some names on the table that might be potential Dodgers, right?
Yeah, Dodgers will be aggressive as always. I know Kyle Tucker's been the latest name thrown out there. I could see it. I feel like another team's going to throw $400 million at him, and I don't think the Dodgers are going to balk at that. But they're always going to be out there for elite talent. Even if they win the World Series or lose the World Series this year, they will be next in line to sign anybody that can help them win the following season in 27, 28, 29. As long as Andrew Freeman's in charge of the helm, as long as their farm system is continuously piping out talent. We mentioned it throughout this October. This window isn't closing anytime soon, so definitely can't take it for granted. But we'll see what Andrew Freeman does. And I liked his comments. At the end of the day, the Dodgers ownership management, they don't have anybody to care about except for their fans. I mean, and they're also in a place where their fans just aren't for just Los Angeles anymore. They're like a global brand, up there with the Yankees, Cowboys, Patriots, the Lakers, all these great teams. And, Mark Walter owns the Lakers now. So we'll see if, he starts transforming that franchise. So clearly the Dodgers are eating well right now. I don't anticipate this being the final World Series. And Andrew Freeman can ruin baseball. But at the end of the day, I anticipate him getting elected into the Hall of Fame as an executive. Dave Roberts will be elected into the Hall of Fame as a manager. We're going to look back at this era of Dodger baseball like the way they've been mentioning it, the golden era, and we're in the midst of it. So I have no problem with his comments. We'll see all the other fans go into a frenzy. I'm pretty sure if you go on Twitter right now, yesterday was like, man, look at these chokers. They lost 11-4. And now today it's probably, oh, man, they gave Yamamoto $325 million. They ruined baseball. That's why he threw a complete game today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always a cope with all the other fan bases. I love to kind of just listen to them cry about it because, they just love to put down the Dodgers and, talk their talk. But at the end of the day, we went through our years and we know exactly how fortunate we are to be here. But yeah, I'm so excited for this week. I have a feeling that we're going to see some really great entertainment. It's not going to be a halftime Jonas Brothers show at Dodger Stadium. But Anthony, do you think we're going to see any fun musical guests this week?
Musical guest would be funny. I think for like the national anthem, they always go out and about for the national anthem. I don't know if we'll have like Ice Cube like we did last year. I really doubt it. But funny enough, you were talking about other fan bases. I see we're not very popular with the Canadian fan base, which is very funny to me. I don't know why. They're also making it a big deal. Like, oh, you guys don't watch the Blue Jays. Well, no, we're a Dodger podcast. We're not a baseball podcast. We focus solely on the Dodgers. But musical guests, if there is, I hope it's early in the game, like during player introductions. That'd be cool. I really don't want like the seventh inning and it's like a 1-1 game and like we have Ice Cube performing. Like, no, I do not want that. During the game, kind of get the crowd amped up, hyped up, get everyone kind of the juices flowing. But I hope the Jonas Brothers, I hope that experiment of like a halftime show was that just an experiment. Like you can do that in the All-Star game, you can do that in the WBC. You cannot do that in game two of the World Series, especially with like how high the tensions were on both sides. That's kind of a crazy move to pull. But yeah, hopefully that was the end of the halftime show here at in baseball.
I I I hope so. I mean, I'm kind of was maybe like an opener. I love the openings and the creative way they do that. And maybe Kendrick Lamar comes out and is a little not like us segment. I don't know, but I definitely do not want to see a halftime show again. But yeah, we definitely have some more chatter. Yamamoto struck out Springer, the cheater. We always love to see that as Dodger fans because I still, yeah, you guys know how I feel about all that. I'm not going to be over it anytime soon. But yeah, definitely do not want that man to get a ring. So awesome stuff. And then yeah, Yamamoto is a Dodgers legend. He has solidified himself like that. So definitely everyone, thank you for joining us in the chat. But yeah, some fun times ahead. We're going to go ahead and just kind of talk about the fun stuff. Who is our player of the game? I think we all know the answer, Cody. Who's your player of the game?
Yeah, it's definitely Freddie Freeman. The plays at first base today. No, it's Yamamoto. You can't go any other way around it. He clearly was the guy that set the tone today. Even him giving up that lone run, I don't even really hold him accountable for that, even though he did hit Springer and then it allowed him to score on that play a little bit later with the sac fly. But, from innings 1 to 9, he was exactly what the Dodgers needed and more. And hopeful to see what happens in Dodger Stadium over these next 3 games with Snell getting another start in game 5. It's going to be interesting, but Yamamoto today was his day.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, we can all be in agreement on Yamamoto being our player of the game. Was there a highlight of the game for you, Anthony, that you're like, yep, this was a cool moment?
Will Smith's home run. That kind of was like he's my honorable mention because he did have a big game today. His home run kind of helped relieve a little bit tension here in the house. I knew we needed to score more runs, but that kind of was like a tension breaker here in this household. So Will Smith was kind of my moment of the game, that home run.
All right. So yeah, that's all my answers to kind of go with what you guys are saying. Definitely excited for what's coming. I really think that we still have a pretty good chance. Cody, what's your confidence level that we are going to take this series?
Yeah, it's definitely, I didn't lose much confidence. I thought we were all pretty positive yesterday considering what we witnessed, embarrassing loss, losing, giving up 11 runs, 9 of them in 1 inning. Clearly a lot of teams and fan bases couldn't take that. And there was a little panic out there, which is why, as soon as the new morning came out, I would put out my positive tweets. I put out the Freddie Freeman grand slam and I said, let's spread some good vibes today. But if you look at how the rotation sets up, we've mentioned it already, Scherzer, Bieber, going up against Glasnow and Otani, I'm going to take the Dodgers side on that 10 times out of 10, especially with the way they performed this October and over the last 2 months of the season. It's really just down to the offense. Can the Dodgers take advantage of those 2 pitchers, particularly Max Scherzer, if he's putting guys on? Can they, give it to him and put the team up 2-1? If they go up 2-1 and then you got, Otani game 4 and then Snell game 5, I mean, we're starting to look a little bit maybe why everybody was picking the Dodgers in 5. It would be awesome to see them wrap it up at Dodger Stadium. Don't think it's going to be a short series like that, though. Unfortunately, I expect it to go at least 6 games. But the Dodgers haven't clinched at home. They've only clinched at home once, I think, in all of their World Series. And the last one that happened, it was like the 1960s. So clearly Dodger Stadium and the fans have been waiting for them to do something like that at home. So they can get out to a 2-1 series lead and then follow Otani in game 4. I like their chances in this series. I still have confidence that it's going to be Dodgers in 6, though. They didn't really show me anything other than that game 1, which I think it was just them mentally checked out after that 6th inning.
Dodgers in 6 sounds like it could be. I'm still hoping for Dodgers in 5, but yeah, definitely going to see some fun games, I think, coming up. Anthony, what are your final thoughts for the night?
Yeah, I'm still confident in Dodgers in 6. Actually, when I went into work today, a lot of people were kind of looking at me crazy because I was like very in a good mood, very energetic. And they're like, "We thought you'd be like in the dumps because they lost that game." I'm like, "Yeah, they lost a game. They didn't lose 4 games yesterday. They just lost a game. You got to be a goldfish, have a short-term memory, and just move on, flush it. Kind of like today, you celebrate today, but after tomorrow, you take the day off and you flush it, on to the next day. We talked about momentum. You build momentum at bat by at bat, not game by game. So we'll see where they're at. I'm confident. Dodgers in 6. I do think the Blue Jays still have fight in them. I do think they'll make it very tough for us here in LA, but I like our chances over 3 game stretch here to win at least 2. So I'm going Dodgers in 6 though.
I like it. That's like the Mookie mindset, because I think in his post-game presser, they were like, what do you think about it? He goes, I don't think anything about it. It's like they know how to really just shut it down and be like, on to tomorrow. And I think that's one of the gifts of being, in this year after year. They have the veteran and the mindset of being professionals that really have been here before and they know how to do this. So that is definitely something I'm happy that our boys can do. Cody, what are your final thoughts for the night?
I think the offense showed up when they needed to, even though they were frustrating to watch in the first, 6 innings of the game. And the pitching, the game plan was the same. Starting pitching has to set the tone. The only way they're going to win this World Series, in my mind, is if each starter goes at least 6 innings to kind of bridge the way to the bullpen for Dave Roberts. So Glasnow is the guy that's a wild card. As much as I love him, I've said it every time for one of his starts. If you can get 6 innings out of him against this Blue Jays offense, you'll take it. You haven't really used any of your high leverage bullpen arms. So then you have 3 straight games that you're going to have to play. So Dave Roberts is going to have to do a little bit of managing in how he's going to do back-to-backs and how he's going to rearrange some of these guys in the bullpen. But I like where they're at. I liked what they showed today, and I liked what Yamamoto did. So clearly we can be happy tonight, celebrate, enjoy it tomorrow, and then get back to the grind on Monday.
So exciting. And tell us where we can find your work with Steve Webb as well.
Yep. Everyone knows DodgersBeat.com. Definitely want to help plug all our stuff there. We got an off day tomorrow, so we'll definitely catch up on all of the stuff that we're listening to from the pregame, postgame interviews from today. I think they talk to the media tomorrow as well when they get back to Dodger Stadium for their workout. But it should be, everything that you need for in written format will be there as well.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to definitely be with you for the duration of the playoffs, the World Series, making sure that we recap all of our shows. So definitely come back and join us on the Bleed Lows Podcast Network. Make sure to check out the articles on DodgersBeat.com, as Cody was saying, and check out our handles. You can find me, Drea, at Ravine Queen 1958. You can find Anthony on X and Instagram at Anthony Acosta _, and you can find Cody on X at Snavely Cody 6. And yes, we are so excited. We're so happy. Series split. And as always, let's go Dodgers.